Ben Simmons has no plans on reporting to training camp next week. We discussed that and more. Also, a lot happening on the college football landscape, including a lot of coaching rumors. And we saw some great action during week 3. We recap that. That's coming up right here on Fourth and Just Us. Welcome to Fourth and Just Us, everyone. We are so glad that you were able to join us for another week of great conversations. We are here, same place, same time, and I'm excited to be alongside, of course, Kevin Anderson, also known as AD, and Mr. Leonard Moore, also known as Doc, because he is a professor. We want to remind everyone that the views on this show are strictly ours. They do not belong to any other person, any other entity. The views on this show are strictly our own.
The views of Kevin B. Anderson do not necessarily reflect the views of the Department of the Defense, the Department of the Air Force, or the United States government, his wife, or children.
We just had to let you know that. And if you are watching us on Facebook, we hope that you have liked our page. If you are watching us on YouTube, we hope that you subscribe. And don't forget, we appreciate the comments that you leave us during the show. And we like to, talk about them, answer any questions, all that good stuff. So again, we appreciate your viewership and we hope that you enjoy this conversation that we're going to have today. Again, as we intersect the race, sports, and politics. And we have a lot coming your way, including this breaking news that has happened with NBA All-Star forward from the Philadelphia 76ers, Ben Simmons, who will not report to the opening of training camp next week and intends to never play another game for the franchise. That according to ESPN. Now, this may come as a surprise to some, may not come as a surprise to others, but as it pertains to the 25-year-old, he wants a trade out of Philadelphia and again told management that he has no plans to wear an NBA uniform again until he moves to a new team. AD, your thoughts on hearing that Ben Simmons has no intention of reporting to training camp for the 76ers?
Well, I'm not surprised after the playoffs last year and how he was viewed at not being a good player, that he couldn't shoot, and that they blamed the loss on him. That as we were talking about before the show, that he's a young guy and his ego has been bruised, and he wants to move on and get a clean start. And it's his choice not to report, and they won't pay him. So I don't know why people would be up in arms about this.
Doc?
Kevin, I kind of agree. I think he signed a 5-year, $177 million deal, not too long ago. And like you said, he has a right not to report. But here's where the Sixers management, in my mind, is stupid. You can't dog the brother out at the end of the playoffs, blame him for losing the playoff game. Doc Rivers went in on him. Joel Embiid went in on him. So now he has no trade value. So now you're kind of stuck. But the question is, Philadelphia was a 1 seed last year. Will they be better without Ben Simmons? I doubt it. I felt that they should have withheld their comments, maybe been critical privately, and got in the gym with their brother. But he's out. Can you imagine him if he goes to like the Golden State Warriors or something like that? I think Ben Simmons is a tremendous talent. So I hate the fact that they kind of gave up on him. But now it's like, oh, no, they want to keep him. So the folks in Philly can't have it both ways.
Understood. Now, just to give you some context, Simmons has 4 years and about $147 million left on his max contract. That is including $33 million for 2001-2022. And I think he clearly understands the potential financial implications of sitting out. But, the Sixers, they could test to see, his willingness to stay away by fining him considerably his salary. So that's something to keep in mind too, of whether it's actually going to happen or not. We shall see. But again, he has no intentions on reporting to training camp, and again, that gets underway next week. as we are getting closer and closer to the NBA season. Moving on now to another situation that has happened. This actually includes a former NBA star himself, Chris Webber. Who's lying here? Is it Chris Webber? Or is it the Michigan AD? Well, it seems to be like a divide between the University of Michigan and Chris Webber and the Fab Five. They were coming a little closer to some sort of reconciliation until a roadblock was hit. And it was all because of what he said and what he said, as our topic is read below. Basically, it was a conversation and a statement that was put out that was said, quote, I enjoyed the conversation with Chris. And when we met several years ago, that according to the Michigan athletic director, Mr. Manuel, he wrote in a statement and said, but I can assure you I made no apology to Chris. And for those who may be curious, I never asked him to apologize to the University of Michigan. I wish Chris nothing but the best, and I'm happy that he's being inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame. Now, all of this took place prior to that event, the Basketball Hall of Fame. Now, this statement was in response to Chris Webber when he had a sit-down interview with ESPN where Webber stated, that's what happened. I was told that by the University of Michigan, I was told by the athletic director at the University of Michigan, Mr. Manuel, that he was sorry. So, Doc, who is lying in this situation?
I don't know. This is crazy, but it seems like it's getting petty. You know, I think Weber's telling the truth. I think Ward Manuel probably like, hey man, we should have handled that better. But he probably had no idea that Weber was going to go to the media. And now here's the question: did donors tell Ward Manuel, hey man, you need to get out there and refute that statement? I hope you didn't apologize to him. But here's the problem: Weber's made his statement on a Tuesday. Ward Manuel didn't say anything until 72 hours later, and so it got back in the news cycle again. So to me, that means there's still some bad blood between Webber and University of Michigan alums and donors, because clearly they don't want to seem as if they are capitulating to Chris Webber, who is now NBA Hall of Famer.
AD?
Well, first, C-Doc, there you go, throwing out the big words again, and then I have to follow you. Come on now. Ward Manuel's a friend of mine, and he's a straight-up brother, and he speaks his mind, and the one thing I'll say about him is that he's truthful. So if he did not apologize, and he said he didn't apologize, I have to believe Ward. But Doc, to go into this further, and you're absolutely right, that this is bad for the entire university, bad for the athletic department, and that, as you said, everybody thought they were moving on, and now they've taken a step backwards, and nobody wins in this situation. And so, it is what it is, and they're at the same place they were before these comments were made. So, how you get out of this is a good question.
But why not just apologize and go forward, regardless of whether it was said previously or not said previously? Why not just handle the situation head on right now and move forward with it, especially if that was the direction you were headed in before these comments and statements came out?
No, that's a good point. Go ahead, Kevin.
I think egos are involved here. And so once you have the clash of the egos, now it becomes who's going to draw the first line in the sand. And, they've been dealing with this for quite some time, and it will continue on now.
Well, here's my question. What does Webber need from Michigan? I mean, does he want to get his records restored? He want to get his jersey up in the arena? What is he? Kevin, you were an AD. Lericia, you run these journalism circles. What do they want from their former university? Just some recognition or affirmation, or what is it?
It's obviously still some hurt there, but with Chris Webber and what happened at Michigan, and maybe he just wants some sort of, for lack of better terms, appreciation or some sort of accountability, in essence, for what happened. I'm not sure, because I can't speak for him. I don't know exactly the direction that he's coming from, but just thinking about the entire situation, maybe that's just what it is. It might be still a little bit of hurt, and he just wants some closure there.
Yeah, Lericia, you're right. I think he wants retribution, and he wants to he wants an apology, And he's probably thinking that if the NIL was back then, we wouldn't even be
Right.
talking about this now.
Right.
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 Right. Well, it seems like we
Just
are a
like
little
Reggie
split
Bush
here.
wants his Heisman Trophy back.
He should have never gave it up. That was his property. Can't take something that man owns. Reggie Bush did not break a law. He broke NCAA rules, but he didn't break no criminal law. So you can't come in my house and take my trophy, you know.
Well,
OJ would.
that's
But
another
OJ came and got his stuff back,
conversation.
right?
That's another conversation for another day. Moving on now with some other action that is taking place in the NBA, and this one is quite hilarious. Everybody understands and knows that the Clippers are moving into a new arena. They plan to move out of the Staples Center and into the suburb that already hosts both the Rams and the Chargers. Well, during the opening ceremony, we had a little raisins in a potato salad moment.
Oh, hell no, Karen. Keep your brand ass potato salad to yourself.
Kawhi Leonard, his facial expressions, he was definitely not feeling. Him nor Paul George were feeling the entertainment that was being had during this time. When you see these facial expressions, when you saw it first posted, Doc, were you shocked that Kawhi had that facial expression, or did you just say, "Hey, that's him. That's what he does"?
No, it was like they were forced to be there. You know what I mean? And the fact that Kawhi can't even hide it. You know what I'm saying? But I guess that's just Kawhi. You know. What I mean, Paul George has a kind of different look on his face.
Yeah.
But Kawhi Leonard was making big time political statement like, A, why am I here? B, who invited this band? And 3, why do I have to sit through this?
AD.
I think Paul George has a deeper appreciation for different music, where Kawhi might not. But hey, Lericia, I got to correct you about one thing. That stadium and the new SoHi Stadium is not in the suburbs. It's in a regentrified neighborhood where they took all the people out, and now they're building these $1 million condos and these complexes. So they have moved our folks out of the neighborhood.
But it's Inglewood. It's Inglewood. I don't know if you call Inglewood a sub, but it's
Inglewood.
Inglewood. Yep. Uh-huh.
Thank you for that correction. I greatly appreciate the education and the knowledge that you dropped on me today. Thank you for that insight.
Oh, hell no, Karen.
I will not have a facial expression like Kawhi Leonard.
Oh,
I will make sure I cover it.
Keep your brand ass potato salad to yourself.
So again, that was our raisins in the potato salad. That was a very, very funny moment watching Kawhi's face as the band went forward. And apparently, and I learned this prior to the show, that is, in essence, a band that the owner enjoyed. And that's more of his lane and his alley. Is that right, guys?
He's a headbanger.
Understood. So maybe that's why Kawhi had that face.
Right.
That could be why. Moving on now to the college football landscape. There have been a lot of coaching rumors, particularly after the firing of Clay Helton from USC. So now there's been another name floating out there, and his name is James Franklin. Now, all of this happened prior to Penn State's game going up against Auburn. We know that Penn State was successful in that football game, but there was a lot of conversation and his name circulating about could he potentially be a good candidate to transition over to USC. And he not once denied, his name being floated around for this particular position. So when you hear about the possibility of James Franklin, his name being floated around for this position, what were your thoughts? Would he be a good candidate? Is that a good move? AD?
I think James would be the best candidate for the job. USC is a different place. As you see, Pete Carroll would bring Snoop Dogg in, and I mean, it's showtime. LA is showtime, and they need somebody with those kind of characteristics. And, James is a very charismatic person, and that I think that he would be the best fit and a great fit for USC. The other thing is people are looking at why would he leave Penn State with all of the success that he's had, but he has to go and face Ohio State, Michigan State each and every year, where if he goes to USC, I mean, basically he'll be competing against UCLA and some of those other schools. So his route to the national championship, I believe, will be easier if he was to go to Los Angeles. And James is a phenomenal recruiter. And that's what needs to happen in Los Angeles, because since I've been born, nobody left Los Angeles to play at Clemson or Ohio State, Texas, or Alabama. And now all those kids are leaving. So somebody has to come and recapture Los Angeles. And I think James is the best person for the job.
Doc?
You know, I think I'd like to see Franklin win something at Penn State first. I mean, I think he has a good shot to make a deep run this year. But of course, he'll, as always, get blown out by my mighty Buckeyes. So Penn State fans don't get too excited. But I think the larger issue with USC that they have to understand, Kevin and Lericia, is that the academic standards at USC are so high. They're a whole lot higher than they were when Reggie Bush and Matt Leinart won back in, 04, 05, 06, in that period of time. So you look at Texas, you look at USC, you look at Michigan, and you look at Notre Dame. The academics you need to get in there. It's too competitive now. And I don't think that the culture is at USC in place to win a national championship. And I'll let you know. Let me explain what I mean. Clemson, Alabama, LSU, Georgia, even Ohio State to a certain extent, the entire structure of the university is geared around winning a national championship. That's not the case at Michigan. It ain't the case at USC. It ain't the case here at Texas. And it's not the case at Notre Dame. So I think whoever they hire, they may need to bring their expectations down just a little bit, because those golden years of with the men of Troy, I think those days are long gone.
So you don't think there's any chance or possibility that could return if you bring in the right head coach?
No, I think these young men from California, they go to LSU, they go to Alabama, they go to Clemson. And I'm going to be honest with you, they see a whole lot more black people there. Clemson, LSU, Alabama, 14, 15% black. USC, about 3% black. I was there about a year and a half ago when my niece finished law school. I sat outside their union for about 4 hours, and I saw like 3 black students that weren't athletes. So I think, these kids now are a little bit more conscious. I don't think they just want to be gladiators anymore. I think you can go to SC and go to a party, or you can go to a party at LSU, Alabama, Clemson, and you see all these black folk. You'd be like, no, that is where I want to be. And I think they like going to the South as well. I think there's something about those West Coast boys that they like really going to the Deep South and playing football.
Well, if the players want to go see black folk, all they have to do is walk off campus and they'll be right in the hood. So that's not totally true.
Right.
But you mentioned, so Reggie Bush, very articulate, very intelligent person. And I think, Doc, that they can win. And the other thing is, if they get somebody who is eligible, they'll get them in school. So, it's just a matter of who they pick as coaches. Because, you talk about Lou Finkel from Cincinnati. Well, he's been in Ohio all his life, and so is his wife. And, it's very difficult for somebody to come to Southern California and be able to fit in that lifestyle, because it is showtime. I'll tell you who's doing a phenomenal job, who just came from Ohio State, is Martin Jarman. Martin understands the landscape of UCLA, and he's embraced it, and he's quite popular in the Los Angeles area. So, it takes somebody with that dynamic personality to come in here and win. And James has that. I mean, if you look at all the other people they're talking about, I don't think they match James's personality and what he's been able to do as a recruiter.
So,
but
AD, go ahead, Doc.
Let me say this, I'm kind of comparing USC to the situation at the University of Miami. Just because you won in the past does not mean you'll win in the future. Nebraska ain't winning nothing no time soon. Miami ain't winning nothing. Florida State is in the can. SC is in the can. So there is no guarantee. We saw that with Texas when they fired Mac Brown. There is no guarantee that you'll get back to the top of the mountain. There is no guarantee of that.
Well, Doc, you're absolutely right. And see, in the expectations of of these fan bases, is unrealistic, and they don't understand how difficult it is to achieve those goals. I mean, Nick Saban has done a tremendous job at Alabama, and that's far and few between. So every once in a while we have that kind of person, but to be at that level and be consistent, I mean, it takes a lot.
Yeah.
So I take it that you guys do not agree with the statements that were put out by Reggie Bush, where he even threw out Deion Sanders as a potential for USC.
You know what, Lericia? I've had to rethink my position on Deion because you know what I'm realizing?
What?
Let me tell you what I'm in the USC Florida State regard. You know what I'm realizing?
Okay.
Unqualified white coaches get big time jobs all the time. All the time. And so you know what? If nothing else, Deion will bring star power. He will get recruits to the door. So it's like, hell, take Deion at Florida State or USC. It can't get any worse. But I don't know if the donors want to deal with Deion's personality.
Okay, well, this takes us into that conversation, right? Because we know that FSU is not off to a great start. They are 0-3 for the first time in years. I want to say since about 1970 or something like that. I could be wrong, so do not take me on that exact date, but I know it's been years. It's been several years since they've had an 0-3 start, and many are starting to believe that a change is necessary and it's needed. And so there were reports that came out that ESPN's Booger McFarland, wants to replace FSU's Mike Norvell with Deion Sanders. And so the question is, would he be a good fit? You say that you don't know if he would be a good fit as it pertains to the donors or whether the donors would want him. But what if they did? What if the donors wanted him? Do you think he could potentially work and fit in this realm of where he actually, gained his presence and his name?
I think Deion would give that program a shot in the arm that's sorely needed. I think Mike Norvell was a bad hire for Memphis. You don't take a person from a mid-major program and throw him into a blue blood like Florida State. Now, what's funny about Florida State is that they ran Willie Taggart out of there real quick. Willie Taggart never lost to an FCS school, never. Mm-hmm. And they were ready to give him out. They said, "Here, man, take all your money, but you gonna get up out of here." And so it's interesting now. Norvell is given he's given more of an opportunity, but they ran Taggart out quick.
AD.
So recruiting is everything. Coaching is overrated. Mm-hmm. Florida is a hard state to recruit because of the competition. I think Deion could come in there, like we're talking about James, and recruit Florida and get them back to where they were. Now, it's all about the staff he would put together. And if you put together good staff, what he can do, he could revitalize the program. The donors will accept most anything that he comes in there to do if they win again. If they win again, there will be no problems. Because, I mean, that's what it's all about. And that's why we call them fans, because fanatics, because, I mean, these folks, when we going back to our earlier conversation, they have unrealistic expectations. You could go 11-1 and you don't go to the championship or lose the championship game, and they're mad. Well, if you look at it, so part of the mission of what we do in intercollegiate athletics is graduate kids. Well, when we start talking about that, it's cool if you win and you graduate kids. If not, there's not a lot of people that are concerned that, well, we're graduating kids and we have good kids. Yeah, but you're not winning. Right. So, I mean, the whole thing is hypocritical.
Yeah.
Well, right now, Norvell has won just, I believe, 3 of 11 games to start his tenure. His contract is $26.5 million over 6 years. So that's something to keep in mind as well, as this discussion continues to happen. But I do think a lot of people believe change needs to happen soon.
And see, Lericia, they would never hire, I don't think Florida State would never hire a brother from a place like Memphis, you know what I'm saying, to come take over that program. So when we talk about white privilege a lot, that's it right there. I mean, that is it. That is it. You look in the dictionary of white privilege, you see a picture of Mike Norvell.
Wow. So this brings me to the topic of the lack of black hires in college football leadership. We've had that conversation before offline or off the show, but I thought I think it's a good topic for us to discuss. And Kevin, you shared a wonderful article with us that went into detail about this. And one part that I wanted to mention is that it says, although black hires have increased since 2000, there have been years, most recently 2015, in which no black coaches or ADs were hired. Why do you think we are seeing the lack of black hires in college football leadership? AD?
I think he's off the screen, Lericia. I don't know what happened. I don't
Okay.
know, Lericia. I'll take a stab at it. I think
Mm-hmm.
the larger political backlash we're seeing politically in the country. I think that is having also an effect, on head coaching jobs. Increasingly, I think the donors, board of regents, trustees, I believe they want somebody, Lericia, that looks like them. Now, understand that they will hire an exceptional Negro, right? James Franklin, a Mike Tomlin, something like that. They will go get an exceptional black person. But in terms of just a regular black coach who come up through the ranks, I don't know. I see it being tough. I see it really being tough sledding for us. And what we see is that the black coaches, particularly the PWIs, get pigeonholed into position coaches where all they're doing is the recruiting. I mean, a lot of the top black assistant coaches in college football, Lericia, they just make a series of lateral moves. That is all they do. They don't get coordinator positions. But then check this out. For so long, they talked about the path to being a head coach was being a coordinator. But then you started seeing these white O-line coaches getting head coaching jobs, and they would say, oh, now that is the path to becoming a head coach. So I think black coaches don't know what is the path, and increasingly we will find ourselves coaching in the SWAC and the MEAC, or again at a large historically white institution, just being a position coach for the majority of our career.
So is there a specific area or a specific nugget that you can pinpoint that could be the hindrance for that?
I think, Lericia, I think it's just good old boyism. I don't think there's anything sophisticated. It is good old boyism. I remember, in the University of Texas, when they hired their coach, Steve Sarkisian, there was a picture, Steve Sarkisian, Chris Del Conte, athletic director, Jay Harps, the president, Greg Abbott, the governor, and Kevin Eltife, the board of regents. And it was like they were all white. You know what I mean? And I know, I'm thinking back, okay, when Charlie Strong was hired, did Charlie Strong get that kind of reception? Because when you hire somebody black, it just messes up the vibe. It messes up the dynamic. And I think they want to avoid that at all costs, unless it's somebody exceptional.
But why does it have to mess up the vibe or the dynamic? Why can't it just flow? Especially if you have a person who intertwines or fits into a program that could be successful if you hire this particular coach.
Because in most of these states, that position in Florida, Mike Norvell, and the country boy at Florida, that dude is something else at Florida. They're probably the two most popular employees in the state.
To my coach Dan.
Right, Dan Mullen. We pray for him. But and so I think those positions they're hard to get, and I think those donors they want to be able to rub elbows with the head coach. I believe that's what they ultimately want to do.
Gotcha, Kevin. We're glad to have you back. Now I want to bring you into this conversation as well, talking about the lack of black hires in college football leadership. And the question is, why are we seeing a lack of black hires in college football leadership?
Well, first of all, I think I upset somebody who was a candidate for the USC job and they unplugged my computer. But moving on. But, if we look at statistics from 1981 to 1993, there were only 3 black head coaches. And two of those positions were filled by the same person, Denny Green.
Wow.
And if we look at it, 35 power schools have not hired black coaches. 45 Power 5 schools have never had a black AD, and 24 of the 65 have never had a black AD or a black coach. Wow. And I'm going to go back to what people want to be around, who they're comfortable with. Mm-hmm. And in a lot of cases, and I've worked with some of these brothers, and they're really not comfortable in the settings that they are put in, and that the folks, feel that uncomfortableness, and they're not comfortable with them. So, I mean, that's a dynamic that is hard to change. Right. The thing is that if you find somebody who is fulfilling the mission of graduating these kids and winning, then it shouldn't matter what color they are. But we've seen in our country now where it's divided, and it doesn't matter who or what you are. It's just that it's I'm not comfortable with that person. I don't know that person, and so I'm not going to support him, or I don't suggest that you should hire him. And when we go through this hiring process, it's not the president, and usually it's not the AD alone. It's the donors and the regents and the trustees, and they get involved in this. And most of those people, what do they know about athletics? It's like you going to the doctor and telling the doctor how to operate on you. So, this is what we're dealing with. And I don't know how it gets better. And see, with James Franklin, the other thing James has, he has crossover appeal. He
Yeah,
could
I mean,
be in any
yeah.
room and feel comfortable, and people will feel comfortable with him. So he has to be Michael Jackson or Luther Vandross in order to get the job.
But check this out though. James Franklin is light skinned. And so understand people are much more comfortable with somebody like James Franklin as opposed to a short, dark skinned, muscular brother like Eric Bieniemy. And we have to understand that stuff is real. This colorism that we got in the black community, it's even real in the white community. They are more comfortable with a biracial brother than they are with somebody like Eric Bieniemy.
Wow.
I wish I could debate you on that, Doc, but you're absolutely right. And that's what we're looking at. And how we get beyond it is a good question.
I think that is the next, like really the next question that should be answered. How do we get beyond it? How do we tear down these stereotypes? How do we break the wall or push through the glass or break the glass of getting more blacks hired in college football on these leadership levels and these leadership roles? You all were talking about the comfort level that these people might have. Well, how do we get more people who are people of color in these rooms or in these positions to help bring about that comfort level? So I think that's something that we have to think about.
I think the players should start demanding it. Like at SC, I think the interim head coach now is a brother named Dante Williams. My thing is, if SC finishes up 7-3-8-2, the brothers on that team should go to the athletic director and say, no, we want this to be our coach. This is going to be our decision. And if he ain't our coach, and we're gonna get in this portal, and we're gonna be somewhere else by the second week of January. And the players need to understand that they have all the power. And oftentimes they don't know they have it, and because they don't know they have it, they don't know how to exercise it.
Well, Doc, you're absolutely right, because the concern in Los Angeles is if this guy runs the table,
right,
the kids are going to come and say, we want him to be our coach. Mm-hmm. And right now, they're not looking at doing that because Hilton was an assistant coach, and they're looking for somebody that has star power, somebody who has a proven record, somebody who is won at that level. And so I don't think he has a chance in hell to get the job. Now, that might change, but what we're looking at now, I don't think he has a chance. But Lericia, to go back to answer your question, so when Mike Tomlin interviewed with the Steelers, mm-hmm. they didn't really know who he or what he was.
Right.
But he blew them away in the interview. And so it's like, wow. And they're always surprised, or many people are surprised when we're able to sit down and articulate and have a vision and show that we have the acumen to be a good business person as well. Then, it makes us different than everybody else. It's almost like Spike movies do the right thing when they're in the closet. And Spike talks to the dude and says, well, you don't like black people. And he said, yes, I do. He said, I like Michael Jordan and I like Michael Jackson. And so Spike said, but, they're not really black. So, the thing is that as long as you fit that mode that they have, it's okay. But if you're outside of that and you still have the same qualities, it makes it difficult because there's a lot of people out there that have never been head coaches that should have been.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
Understood. Well, I still think it's a topic that we have to address and continue to push this effort forward because we want to see more leadership, more people of color, African Americans in leadership roles on the collegiate level. We want to see these numbers change and we want to see some difference there. So again, appreciate this conversation, and I think it's something that we will always come back to and have this conversation and discussion. But we want to talk about some of the action that took place during week 3 of college football, and we mentioned it a little bit already, but we know that Penn State and James Franklin, they defeated Auburn 28-20. Not sure if you all had the opportunity to see the game, but I am always blown away by the fandom that comes with Penn State. Seeing all of those people in the stands with their white on, the whiteout game. It's always so fascinating to me, especially since that college football stadium reminds me of an NFL stadium, right? And it seems like everyone always looks forward to that game. Was there a special moment from that game that you all can pinpoint that you enjoyed?
No, I think the SEC is overrated. I think they've been overrated for a long time. The SEC has had one team for the last 10 years. That was Alabama. But I don't understand. Rich, you're an SEC girl. Help me understand this. I went to Ohio State. That's who I'm going to cheer for. I ain't never going to cheer for Michigan. I ain't never going to be chanting Big Ten, Big Ten. No. This SEC stuff, they've been overrated for a long time. I don't think that was that big of a win, Penn State. You're playing at home. It's a night game. It's the whiteout. But I'm just tired of all this SEC stuff. It drives me crazy. When I was in Baton Rouge for 9 years, that's all they talk about, the SEC. I'm like, who is your team? They're like, oh, Arkansas. So SEC has had one team for the last 10 years. LSU is an outlier. And Georgia can't get over the hump, Lericia, and they're not going to do it this year because they can't score no points.
Well, I think it's just a down south to heart sort of thing. Like, it's one of those things you cannot take away from anyone. They are going to hold tight to it, hold fast to it, regardless of what you say, regardless of whatever statistical point you want to prove. They are going to hold down the SEC, whether they are doing good, bad, ugly, or indifferent. And they are going to admit the lone leader at the top. They will always admit that. But regardless of what you say, it's just one of those things like that people hold tight to them. I think it almost reminds you of like a regional thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like y'all, it's a regional thing for some people. Like SEC might be a regional thing to some people as well. Because, you know, if you go to the Northeast, it's totally different. You go to the West Coast, it's totally different. So that's just how I look at it.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where people...
I had to take those shots at you, though.
I know you did. It's okay. It's okay. I'm going to let you have that one there. Another game that we want to highlight is UNC.
Wait. You didn't ask me. Come on now.
You know what? You know what, AD? I'm sorry. I apologize. Go
no,
ahead.
But I
you
can tell you. So my first experience going to Penn State, we're driving in and we're driving past the tailgates in the parking lot, and there were 3 Confederate flags flying. So that's my impression, and that's what I'll always remember about Penn State. It wasn't. Wow. I can't even tell you if we won the football game or not, but I sure can tell you those flags were flying.
Wow.
Right. But you know, let's get back to the SEC. Look where all those schools are. I mean, there's nothing to do. Starkville and all those other places. I mean,
you're right.
There's not a lot of other stuff going on.
Right.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Location plays a huge role because definitely in Gainesville, Florida, that is a college town.
Yeah.
It's all about the University of Florida. So for sure, even if you go over to Clemson, that entire town is all about Clemson. So that you bring up a great point there, AD. You bring up a great point there.
Here's the other thing we have to look at. There's a lot of coaches now that love that transfer portal. If you look at San Diego State beating Utah with transfers, we played Utah State. They had 8 transfers. 6 of them came from the school that the coach came from because it's a brand new coach. So if you look at all this, that there's a lot of people that now probably are not complaining about the transfer portal because they've got these kids. And, you know, now you don't have to rely on high school kids because you got film and you see who's in the portal and who can help you. So, I mean, I would like to go and pull the coaches now and ask them what they think about the transfer portal. And I think there's going to be a lot of people that say, oh, yeah, I like it now. I'm all for it, or they were for it from the beginning. But, you know, I mean, look at BYU. BYU's beat 3 Pac-12 teams. They should be playing for the Pac-12 championship.
Right.
So
Hey,
I
the
mean, you know,
Mormons
this
can
whole
the Mormons can ball up there, brother.
Whoa. Whoa. OMG. Well, let's
I
talk
went
about the
no,
ACC a little bit.
I could talk like that. I went and gave a lecture up there at BYU a couple of years ago, so I'm adopted into the family. And I tell people the funny part is like all of my white friends, whatever, like they're all Mormon, and I think there is something, you know, when they go do that mission, Kevin and Lericia, outside
Hmm.
the country or something like that. I mean, there's just a different awareness they have of race in the U.S. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, you know, the other thing, Doc, they're coming back and they're 24, 25. They have a
Yeah,
family. So, you know, these are mature men that are playing
absolutely.
against younger people. So, I
Right.
mean, there's something to say for that as well. But my question to you, that if you're going to become a Mormon, are you going to have more than one wife?
Now you know that is not happening.
Nah,
That is not
that's
happening, and
old school.
we are not gonna let Doc get in trouble today on the show. So we're gonna
That's
move
right.
right on,
That's
talk
right.
about UNC and
Thanks,
how they
Clarissa.
defeated Virginia 59-39. Now the ACC has not been looking the greatest. And
Mm-hmm.
there have been a lot of comments and talks about what's happening within the ACC on both sides. We saw Georgia Tech, they lost to Clemson 14-8, and many people are starting to question the play of Clemson as
Yeah.
well. And their quarterback situation. AD, when you had the opportunity to check out Clemson, whether it was against Georgia Tech or any previous game so far this year, were you surprised at what you saw? Did you still see that same tough, hard nosed football from Clemson?
Well, defensively, they're still playing well, but offensively, they're not. Their offensive line is young, and you know it's just not as good as it used to be. They
Mm,
don't have Etienne anymore, so you know they've lost a lot at running back, and you know the expectations are that this young man was going to come in and be like the two quarterbacks he followed, and you know I think that's beyond the expectation. Doc, we look at Ohio State. I think the freshman quarterback, they had high expectations for him, and it's not that he's playing bad, but he's, you know, he's a freshman and he's young, and adopting to the teams he's playing. I mean, it's been difficult. So you know, I think all going back to what we were saying earlier. You know, these expectations get blown up, and now they villainize these kids. You know, they get on social media, and that's a lot for a young 18-year-old to take on. So, you know, I'm not surprised. The thing that, you know, with North Carolina, and I forgot his name, but that quarterback, they were about to ship him the Heisman Trophy before the season started. And so now I think we got to, you know, rethink that as well. So, again, the ACC is a basketball school. They're basketball schools. Come on now. They never said that they were football schools outside of Clemson and Florida State. And Miami was once, but now, I mean, they're struggling. The game's caught up with everybody, with the recruiting, the transfer portal, the NIL now, and everything else. We might see a shift in, you know, where we're going and how college football is going to look like. And if we
mm,
keep going the way it is, and we talk about paying players and everything else, it's going to be the NFL on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
mm,
Yeah.
mm. Now, another game I do want us to talk about, and I have to mention here, Alabama going up against Florida. That was a good game. And the only reason why Florida lost was because of the mistakes that they made at the end. So, what does that say about Alabama and their reign? Or what does that say about Florida and their potential of what could be for the remainder of the season? Florida only lost by 2 points, it was 31-29. So, what do you think that says about the team at Florida?
People in Florida should not believe in moral victories. You lost the game. And they're running around here talking about we kept it close. You lost the game, plain and simple. And Dan Mullen has a much better recruiting advantage over Nick Saban in Alabama. He got the whole state of Florida there. You got to beat them. You got this stuff about getting close. No, you got to beat them. So I'm looking forward to Dan Mullen. You know, hopefully they can play again. They can play again in the SEC championship game. You know, if no, they can't play. They can't because they're both in the East. So I don't. They won't play each other again. So it'll be interesting. No, you're right. Alabama's in the West. I'm sorry. They could play each other again. But Florida got to beat Georgia to make that happen, and we'll that'll be interesting. That'll be a great game. Be a defensive battle. I think Florida has a better offense than Georgia, so I look for Georgia to take that L when they play at the world's largest cocktail party.
You know what? I'm glad you said that because for a second I thought you were sounding like a hater, but we're gonna go ahead and let AD go ahead and respond to that.
Roll Tide.
Whoa!
That's
What?
all I got to say. Roll Tide.
Oh, we got
What
two
was
haters
exciting
on here right now.
about that game, Lericia? They both had two black quarterbacks. You know what I mean? And this is
Hmm.
old school Alabama and old school Florida. And I think the brother from Florida, I don't know if he had locks or something like that, but it seemed like he had a unique hairstyle. And I'm just that's progress to me. Where you got these real brothers back there playing quarterback, and the coach like, "No, man, it's your team. Let's go with it."
Understood. Understood. One last game that I wanted us to highlight on the college football level, of course, was Cincinnati. They defeated Indiana 38-24. Cincinnati, the Bearcats are again making their presence heard and making sure that people know who they are on this spectrum, on the higher end of things, because we saw them have a phenomenal season last year and they are continuing down that road again early on. So it's going to be exciting to see what they do. Again, they defeated Indiana 38-24. So that's some week 3 college football action. Now we must recap some NFL action really quickly before we close out the show. I've heard a lot of people say that this was nearly a bye week for the Buccaneers as they faced the Falcons, and I thought that was so disrespectful, but it was again in essence slightly true. The Tampa Bay came out successful 48-25, and we're just going to leave that game there and talk about the Jaguars. Another hurt for me, but they lost to the Texans 37-21. Another loss for Urban Meyer. But I'm not sure if you all saw, the Jaguars released a statement basically in essence telling the fans to hang on, we're going to get there. Another loss for Urban Meyer. Were you, I don't want to say were you shocked, but what were your reactions?
This is karma for Urban Meyer. A couple years ago, he had Larry Elder talk to the Ohio State football team, talking about how he was a big fan of Larry Elder. Like, come on, man. No, Urban's not cut out for the NFL. He may. They say he may what? He say he may invent another injury, talking about his health, and he may quit. He's just not cut out for it. The league is big boy stuff. I remember somebody said that to Nick Saban. As long as you're around other college coaches, you big man on campus. But when you get in the presence of people like Mike Tomlin and Belichick and those people, you got to go sit in the corner somewhere because it's a different ball game when you can't go handpick your players.
Understood. AD?
Well, Urban looks miserable on the sideline. He looks like Doc, he might be sick any time now because this is hard for him to stomach. And, they've got a long way to go because you look at how they've been playing and who they've been playing, and they just don't match up. So, unless he makes some trades or they do something with free agency next year, it's going to be a tough road for them to follow with the position they're in now. And that rookie quarterback, he's getting killed.
You see,
Trevor
see,
Lawrence, he has no O-line.
Y'all made him cut his secret weapon, Tim Tebow. See, if he would have had Tebow on the team, they'd be 2-0.
I wish that Wayne had on hand that meme with the straight face from the young kid. Oh, gosh. So he could just plaster that right there for the comment he just made about the secret. Okay, we're going to leave that right there, too. The Saints and Jameis Winston did not look the same this week. They lost to the Panthers 7-26. What happened with Jameis Winston, AD?
I didn't see the game. I don't know, but he looked great that first game. And, he might have had some flashbacks when he was in Tampa or wherever else he's been that he reverted back to what he was doing. But I didn't see the game, so I don't know if it was him or it's a team. But, yeah, they definitely came out flat because you would think after that win the week before last, that they would have that momentum and that they would carry it on.
Yeah. Doc?
No, I think I hope not, but I think Jameis is on a short leash. Hope the brother has a great game this week. He have 2 or 3 bad games. They're gonna start talking about Taysom Hill, and I know Sean Payton doesn't want to go down that road. But I'm glad he had that good first game with 5 touchdowns. Hopefully that can give him a little grace over the next couple weeks.
Gotcha. Quickly, just a few others. Dallas had a win over the Chargers, 20-17. That happened with a field goal. The Raiders were successful over
Raiders,
over the Steelers, 20
Raiders.
26-17. And I must say, the Raiders, AD, they have been off to a phenomenal start.
So,
Phenomenal start.
they're still Oakland. I don't care if they go to Vegas, they go to LA, they're still the Oakland Raiders. But yeah, they're off to a great start. And, the thing about the Raiders is they got people traveling from Oakland and Los Angeles. They're sold out. And so, I mean, you should see the airport, uh, people going home after the game, catching these flights. So they still have a home base both in Oakland and Los Angeles. So I'm just happy for them. That's my team. I grew up with them. And so I hope that they could get back to excellence. Just win, baby. Just win.
And the last thing we want to mention, of course, is the Ravens. They were successful over the Chiefs, 36-35. And what I thought was absolutely phenomenal was how Lamar Jackson put the team on his back and led them to victory. There has literally been videos and memes going around of the coach yelling out to Lamar Jackson, like, hey, do you want to go for it? Do you want to go for it? In those final seconds. And Lamar Jackson came back and said, yeah, like, we're going to get this. He didn't quite say it in the manner I said it, but
Yeah, he did not use that language.
Now, I'm really happy for that brother. I mean, all the stereotypes he's had to deal with, people doubting him. I was in a conversation last week with some people, and I said, if I was starting a franchise, I would take, I would take Jackson over Mahomes. They looked at me like I'm crazy. No, that dude, that's a bad boy. We got to give him his credit. But again, here we go now. He doesn't look the part. You know what I mean? So I don't think he'll ever become that, that NFL poster child. You know what I mean? Because he doesn't fit the image that they want. But the boy is bad. What's he, 24 years old? I mean, the stuff he's doing
yeah,
is unreal. Completely redefining the quarterback position.
he doesn't
Yeah,
fit
Doc,
that,
all he
that
wants to do is
image.
play ball. That's all he wants
Yeah.
to do. He wants to play ball. He doesn't care about anything else, and he's going to take care of his family. So, uh,
Yeah,
my hat's off to him.
and he's negotiating his own contract.
Yeah.
Well, that wraps it up for the NFL recap. Of course, we have come to the time where we have to give you our final thoughts. So we're going to start it off with Doc this week. What's on your mind?
Oh, phew, a whole lot. My Cleveland Browns, Odell Beckham is still out. Jarvis Landry got hurt Sunday. He's out for a couple of weeks. But no, we feel that this is the Browns' year. I think the big thing for the Browns, are they going to give Baker Mayfield that big time money? As much as I'm a Baker Mayfield fan, I'm just trying to envision can he lead us to the promised land, or should we make a move for somebody else? So we got 15 weeks left in the season. My goal is for the Browns to get a Super Bowl while I'm still living, and this may be I don't know how long I'm gonna live, but we got a good chance this year. Should have beat Kansas City first week of the season, but we didn't. But hopefully we can be right in the thick of things.
AD, what's on your mind?
So my condolences go out to the Cunningham family, Sam the Bam. So if anybody's responsible for Alabama's success, it's him. Because when that C went down and played Alabama in Birmingham in 1970, it was an all-black backfield. Sam scored 2 touchdowns, and after the game, Bear Bryant said, "I got to go get me some of them." The next year, he went and got Wilbur Jackson and John Mitchell. They went 11-1, and I think they won the national championship. And that started the trend, not only with Alabama, but all those SEC teams. So God bless Sam, and may he rest in peace.
And as for me, just want to invite you all to watch me on ACC Network this Saturday at 12 noon, as I will be on the call alongside Roddy Jones and West Durham as we go forth with Richmond at Virginia Tech. So it should be
Awesome.
an interesting, good game. So catch me at 12 o'clock on ACC Network. And we hope that you come back and join us again next week, same place, same time, for another great episode of Fourth and Just Us, where we intersect the conversation of race, sports, and politics. So thank you for watching. We greatly appreciate it. Make sure you like us on Facebook, subscribe to us on YouTube, and always drop your comments and let us know what you think. We look forward to seeing you again. Have a great day.
Peace.